Milton was the one that caused the most damage for us this year. Helene came through a little earlier.
Okay. Welcome to the Business and Pleasure of Flowers. We're your hosts, Vonda Lefevre
and Lori Wilson, and we believe that business and fun are a perfect combination. Kind of like us, Vonda. It's Monday. I know this launches tomorrow morning, but it's Monday morning and it feels like it's 7:00 p.m.
It's been a long day already. Yes, you're right.
It's been a long day. But we have a great guest with us today. I'm super excited.
We do. David Register from FernTrust. Thanks for joining us today.
I'm glad to. Nice to see both of y'all.
Yes, good to see you. You're hard to track down. You seem to be a little bit of a traveler.
Job keeps me busy all over the place for sure. And luckily I'm home today. Victoria's off doing one of the shows for us up in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
I'm on the home turf today.
So speaking of your job, tell people a little bit about what you do. Tell them about your company, but also you wear a lot of hats outside of your company too.
I'm the executive vice president of FernTrust Incorporated, which is a cut foliage cooperative of many growers here in the Central Florida area. They're mostly farms owned by my family and different subsidiary farms that are associated with us. So in addition to running that company, I also have my own farms and ferneries, David Register Ferneries, and also manage a small cattle company. So I do stay fairly busy.
I would say more than a little busy, right? Wow. Well, it's interesting because when I went on the website for FernTrust, it says growing leader in the foliage industry, but it also says fern cool, fresh, fabulous foliage greenery. I mean, like Fern Cool, is that a branding?
Fern Cool is what we call our system that we develop to make our products last the absolute longest that they can as far as cut foliages go. It's a patented system where we bring the stuff in. We have a proprietary dip treatment that we do them with, and then it goes right into our cold chain where it's pre-cooled in a cooler, packed under refrigeration, stored under refrigeration, and then loaded straight onto refrigerated trucks for the marketplace all over the world.
Wow, I didn't realize that. When I get the fern, specifically leather is what I'm thinking of, and I look at that and it's more shiny. Is that stuff that's been treated?
That's part of it. Like I said, it's kind of a leaf shine, oily treatment that makes the leather leaf last a little longer. We have actually different treatments for different types of foliages. So like the asparagus type foliages that are a little more delicate, we have a different treatment that we use that for. I mean, they all involve the cold chain and getting stuff in the cold chain as soon as possible, but they have a little bit different leaf sealer, leaf shine that we treat different ones with.
So could you get the asparagus fern to not have thorns on it?
We have actually a couple of varieties that are thornless. We have like a thornless spring rye that's pretty popular now. But and the tree fern, of course, doesn't really have thorns on it. So you got those two you can choose from. Now, the Plumosa and spring rye and Ming, you're kind of at your own hazard when you're working with those.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So the Fern Cool and what's Color Fresh then?
Color Fresh is the way we put the different colors on the fresh foliages. So a long time ago, we started to do preserved foliages, especially the asparagus varieties. And at that point, you had to paint them whatever color because it turned it brown, the preserving process. Well, in the process of doing that, we decided, why are we worrying about preserving it? If we paint it, it pretty much preserves it from then on to use. So we came up with a paint system that we can put the paint right on fresh foliages, all different kinds of colors, including natural green. And it makes especially the asparagus varieties last a little longer. And then it can add color like metallic, sparkle, whatever, to all the different greeners we grow.
Yeah, us designers love that. Yeah, we love all the different colors, in the variety.
Getting more and more popular every year. It was kind of a hard sell, actually, when we first started doing it. Everybody thought it was, tacky. But now it's really become one of our major sellers.
That's great. Wow. Exciting things happening. When you think you cannot do anything else to foliage, here you guys come up with it. So I think that's really
That's
cool.
where we got our tagline, the growing leader, from. We try to be innovative and do things in a leading fashion within the foliage industry.
Well, did you have your daughter, Victoria, who, the younger generation who helps you keep up with trends?
Exactly. And technology also. And she started when she was actually a little girl. We were doing trade shows all over, and she liked to tag along. That was usually the family vacation that we had, was associated with some kind of floral event somewhere. So she spent a lot of time traveling and helping Daddy set up trade show booths pretty much all over the country.
Yeah. Well, and now your granddaughter Charlotte does it. I saw her.
Now we're continuing the family tradition, and with the new technology, she's been our social media star so far.
She has. She is a star.
She's the cutest. She is so adorable. And I know she is the highlight of your life and Victoria's. I got tickled when she was she was with your wife and daughter at ARD. You were home nursing a foot. Was that right?
Yeah, I think I did. I've had a foot injury earlier this year. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Charlotte was telling me all about it. So you can imagine.
Yeah.
Tell me all about you being home. So anyway, well, one of the reasons we wanted you on here, besides just to visit, was to talk about all of the hurricanes that have happened. And actually, I was watching the news this morning. I'm like, oh no, there's more. There's possible.
Yeah, this one I don't think is hitting Florida. I think it's going somewhere else.
It looks like it's going to go to the West Coast, but I mean, I feel for wherever it goes, and hopefully it looks like this one's just going to be a rainmaker pretty much from wherever it is. But
exactly.
That episode of Groundhog Day, I don't know if y'all are familiar with that movie. It's just it's the same thing over again when it comes to weather and this time of year.
Yes. So,
because I actually looked it up, and it was like Helene hit in September 26th as a Category 4.
It's pretty much the last 3 years, something that's came almost every single year. Some of them have been worse than others, of course. Milton was the one that caused the most damage for us this year. Helene came through a little earlier. We had some winds from that and a few trees, but Milton was the one where we got some, 90 mile an hour plus gusts, which don't mix well with shade cloth or oak tree shade.
Right.
So it caused some damage. I'll be honest with you, when I woke up in the morning, I was expecting everything to be pretty much gone, because it came during the night when you couldn't see what was going on. And I mean, that wind was howling. You could hear it over the roofs. And I was just happy that we didn't have a problem with the home. Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised that probably, 65 to 75% of our ferneries were not damaged. So we're lucky in that area. We have a lot of trees to clean up, which hurts the asparagus varieties and those things are grown in natural shade. And then we have some shade houses also to repair, probably maybe 25 to 30 acres or so, a shade house, which is it's still a substantial hit, but it's not as bad as it could have been, put it that way.
Wow. Yeah, with 3 in a row, we were just thinking, oh my gosh, how do you survive that? When you get
the tough thing is, this year is the first year that we've not had any insurance on them. That all the insurance companies have backed out of the shade house market in our area, or they've made it where it's so expensive you can make zero profit during the year if you had it. So it was the first real nail biter as to what's going to happen to the industry if one comes through here and really gives it a whack. So I'm sure even the way it was, some people had more damage than others. That's the way hurricanes are. They're not like tornadoes, but you do have strips of areas where it hits really hard. And then sometimes as close as 3 or 4 miles away, there would be hardly any damage. So there were some people got hit a lot harder than we did in this last storm. Some of them might or might not be continuing to do business. That remains to be seen.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was wondering also. And so with you saying that, how do you see it affecting our industry, like the retail florist, when it comes to ordering foliage?
Well, I mean, the way you can also, of course, help the growers the most is by
Yeah.
continuing to buy. And I think there's enough fern in the marketplace to cover most of the orders through Valentine's Day. It might get a little tight then. Then we'll have to see, because the effects of the less acreage in production might become a factor in the future. The difficulty we're going to have is we're going to be getting into our harvesting season where it's real busy harvesting wise for Christmas and Valentine's Day coming up. So we don't have enough help repairing the structure. For the last several years, the labor market's been very difficult in the area. And now when you have something extra thrown on top and you try to, bring more resources in, more people to do the work, they're just not available. And the wage gets up so high where it gets almost cost prohibitive to do a lot of the things that you need to do.
Boy, such struggles, man. So when you say the loss of production, are you saying because of the shade areas, most of the things are grown under the shade? And so since they're not protected anymore, you're not able to grow
So even
those?
the ones that will be repaired, they might be out of repair long enough that you're going to lose the crop that's under there. And then, of course, when you go back in and start fixing it, you cause a lot of damage from just walking on the stuff and doing everything else underneath it. So it'll be out of production there. I'm guessing a certain percentage will never be built back after this year, just because the market and the way it is. It's kind of an unknown. Every year, I've been doing this for a long time now, since the 80s. And every year I think I have this business figured out, something else happens. So I just kind of wait and see what happens and roll with the punches, whichever way they come from.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a choice because so much of your business is dependent on the weather.
Yeah.
Right?
There's two things in farming that I always say that we can't do anything about. Number one being the weather, and number two is the government. So what they're going to do next. So those are the two difficult things in agriculture, what comes next and down the pike, that you really don't have a whole lot of control over. We don't have much control over the government because we're only less than 2% of the population in agriculture anymore. And also the weather, of course, we have pretty much zero control over. So
yeah. None of us have that direct line. Do
No.
we say, hey, get this out of here.
We have a direct line. It's just somebody else has a lot more wisdom than we do that sees what's really going to happen. So,
right. Yeah, that's true. We do have a direct line, just not for all those asks, right?
Correct.
That's what we were concerned about too. And you are part of the Florida Growers Association.
Yeah, the Floral Greens Farmers of Florida. We got together to try to do some joint marketing and promote our industry from within, so we don't get forgotten and everything becomes all flowers. We like to make sure everybody remembers their foliage is around too to be used. And I thank all of you designers for keeping the spotlight on those. Yes, we're members of that.
Okay. Do you know much about the plant business? I mean, obviously you're doing cuts, but there were so many plant greenhouses that were probably destroyed too. Is that going to increase the prices there?
I don't think there was probably tons of those destroyed. There might be some. I mean, you're going to be seeing the effects of in Florida, the minimum wage has gone up. Labor costs are going to be what drives some of the price increases possibly that you might see. With the storm on top of that, it might exacerbate it a little bit, but inflation in general and the cost of labor is probably as big or bigger driver than what the storm costs are going to be for a lot of things. So
that's interesting. So labor, and then your costs probably for just supplies generally overall.
Yeah, just overall. Some of that is moderated some, but some things continue to increase. Luckily, fuel prices are down some, but fertilizer, plastics, all those types of things continue to go up. The cost of, I know a lot of florists probably use them too, but box prices continue to go up, and I haven't figured out why that is. We just got another 6% increase on the cost of the boxes we pack everything in. So it doesn't seem to want to go away.
Mm-hmm. I suppose if you think about productivity of any product, the labor is up, right?
Yes.
So
And that's one of the reasons at FernTrust we do these fabulous foliage bouquets. So hopefully we can streamline those costs somewhat, especially on the labor side for retail florists and mass markets, that we can do a lot of the work at our packing house. So when you get the product, it's more a product that's ready to go right into a vase arrangement, and you can account for your costs a lot better than you can, say, if you were buying bulk of all the different things. So
it's interesting because I was just this week having a conversation with somebody who did the numbers, and she said she looked at the bouquets, the pre-made she had gotten from FernTrust, and then she said we'd gone away from that because we thought they were so expensive. And she said, but then I actually took the look at each one of those types of foliage, how many I could make out of there, and it was less expensive for me to get them pre-made than it was for me to buy it all individually. And she said that wasn't even including my labor. And so she said, the problem is they're too big. Then we were going back and forth anyway. So finally I said, you just go to your wholesaler, tell them what you want in those. I know FernTrust will make exactly what you want in those bouquets for you. If you want it half the size of the ones you're getting them, you just need to have them put it in there. And she's like, really? I didn't know they'll do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, those people at FernTrust will speak out of turn there, David.
We have the sizes all the way down from the just add flowers ones, where it's only very few stems, to the medium size, which are the most popular, to the ultimate bouquets, which have a lot. And like you said, the one thing a lot of retail florists, they don't factor in is their own time or their designer's time. If you have one of those, you have it out on the bench, you've got 4 or 5 or more different foliages all in front of you. When you factor in the time of, you have a designer there and they keep going back and forth to the cooler, getting different things and mix and match, and that labor cost is going high for everybody, and it saves that time. They have it all right in front of them. They can just drop it in vases and eliminate some of the busy work, I would like to say, as far as making arrangements.
It's genius. It's also genius for those shops that don't have all the designers they need. It's genius for people that maybe have one designer and then a couple of assistants that aren't that great at knowing exactly what foliage. But if they already have a bundle, they know, oh, I need this, and then they know.
I love the ones that you have. That you just drop them in the vase, and you can be a dozen.
Oh my gosh, I would love that.
We need to come.
Lori,
that's what I need.
We can be the IKEA of flowers, where we'll have a little design instruction sheet, and you buy that, and if each shop made their own little thing, they could train a lot of different people to make the arrangements that they designed.
So smart.
So, yes.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, Lori, we're going to take a quick break to hear a message from our sponsor. FlowerClick's expertise is your online store, your website. We create and professionally photograph current, trendy designs and add them to your website. Just like your physical shop, you have to change out the displays on your website. We do that for you. We merchandise the products on your website to entice customers to buy from you. It'll make you look great. You'll sell more at a higher price. And did I mention those are profitable designs? Your website is your best salesperson. And there's so much more to FlowerClick, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our tight-knit community of members. We have like-minded business owners who respect and really want to help one another. Our members are amazing, which drives us to do all we can for their success. Don't underestimate the power of what FlowerClick can do for you.
I think it's so interesting why shops don't take more advantage of things like that from a labor standpoint and an efficiency standpoint.
That, and also what's becoming a bigger and bigger part of our business are garlands for special events. We can make those with the same type of recipe. I always compare it to like a pizza menu. There's so many different combinations that are possible. You just can't even put them all on one sheet. But why anybody want to try to make a garland themselves when we can churn that stuff out on the machines that we have so much more efficient than a retail florist can. And they can, and it's not like they have to leave it the way it comes to them either. They can add different things to the garland to really make it pop when they get it. So,
yeah, a lot of shops I know, they get your pre-made garland and then they just have to drop in a few fresh flowers. The whole thing looks just fabulous. And when you're using the painted foliage too now, to add to that a little bit of sparkle of gold or silver, oh, they're so pretty. So pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, I like it. An old Dutch guy that we used to sell a lot of fern in Holland, And he was always the one that gave me these little tidbits of wisdom. He goes, David, he goes, I like it and you like it, but it doesn't really matter what we like. It's only what the customers will buy. So that's what I like to try to churn out. I have to hear from people like you and your customers to know what it is we need to be concentrating on so we can provide what the marketplace wants.
And that's why you and Victoria do a lot of traveling, though, because it seems like whenever Lori and I are at some show, here you are, and you're listening to what people want. And that's kind of the key to it. I mean, you have your boots on the ground and your ears to the ground, too, finding out what people want.
We try. I know we try to do everything that we can that's in our power and that we can afford to put into our stuff, because I know that's the only value we have over something that comes maybe in bulk from overseas, is hopefully that little bit of extra personal touch we can give on the sales side or on the product side.
I think that's key. And we know that it seems that relationships are more important now than ever, and that you making those relationships with the customers when you're out and about, whether it be at SAF or I think, did we see you at Texas State too? I mean, it seems like every time we go.
Every time I go somewhere, I see Victoria. She's everywhere. She's everywhere. Charlotte's everywhere.
Yeah. We try to do what we can to give back to the industry that's been so good to us over the years. And it's important to me to try to support all the different segments of it the best we can to our ability, because, I mean, that's been our bread and butter. It doesn't matter what we do if we don't have the other segments of the industry to support us. That's one of the reasons I like SAF so much, because it kind of brings all the different segments of the industry together under one roof. So we can see, we can talk about each other's pain, the problems we have, and also the ways we can solve problems together for the future.
I'm on your website right now. Your garland is a beautiful. You have so many different choices. It's so pretty. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Well, thank you so much. And we do wreaths kind of the same way too. We can make the wreaths out of the different things the same way we do the garland. And those two things have become bigger and bigger every single year.
Yeah. The hardest part is trying to decide what you want in that garland, because I was working at a Buildoran company and I was working with them and they go, all of these are your possibilities. I'm like, what? There are way too many.
It's kind of like going out to eat at the Cheesecake Factory when they give you that menu that's 14 pages long and like, holy cow, what do I want out of here? It's the same thing to have with foliage. I think we have 80 different types of foliages or more. And then just, you can imagine the combinations that you can make with that. Pretty unlimited.
Yeah, but you must work pretty well with your wholesalers, because then they would say, well, we've seen this one and it's this, these 3 or 4 or 5, because they have that vision then that they can help the customers with, which I think is really helpful.
Yes, definitely. Victoria and Beverly and the other salespeople in the office really kind of have a knack of knowing what works for different people and what doesn't. And they can guide people if they don't know exactly what they want on what's a good combination for those things, and hopefully provide some pictures for them too, to see, what it might look like.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. Well, it's good to hear that we probably won't have too much of a shortage of foliage for Valentine's Day. I mean, we'll get through Christmas, but then Valentine's Day shouldn't be too much of a shortage is what I'm hearing, just probably a little bit increase in price.
I think there could be a little bit more of a shortage than normal on some of the asparagus things, just because the amount of limbs and debris that falls from the oak trees is a little more, and it always gets a little tighter, that supply during the wintertime.
Okay.
I think there'll be some probably a little minor pricing increases on specialty stuff. I haven't seen leather prices go up too much, although we need to do it. We're trying to keep our price as economical as possible for people, even with the increase in costs that we have. So we're doing everything we can to try to moderate those things. The thing is like, I want to be here. I have Victoria coming after me, and then hopefully Charlotte. I want to make sure our company stays healthy for the long term, and that we don't run ourselves short and try to sell too low below our costs, that we can keep investing in our company and making it better for the future, not just living off of what we've done in the past. It's easy to do that And you see companies do that all the time. They just kind of live off of what they got. They don't try to put anything back into their business as far as overhead and utilities and infrastructure. And if you don't keep improving those things over time, 15, 20 years, they call it depreciation for a reason. The depreciation goes away if you don't keep investing money back into it. So
yeah. Are you first generation?
My grandfather was the one that actually first planted fern here on our farm. I'm the fifth generation on this farm with different types of things over the years, from citrus, cattle. But my grandfather planted about 12 acres of leather leaf underneath some of the natural oak trees here in 1960 was the first he planted. He sold it all just local to other bigger fern companies in the field. And then we had a lot of orange groves at that time. And in the mid 1980s, there was a really bad freeze that came through and knocked out all of our orange groves. And that's when we started increasing the amount of cut foliages that we had. I left school and we started FernTrust, and we had to have enough pooled acreage to be able to ship one ocean container a week for the markets in Holland. We were putting stuff on the auction over there. So we pulled together with two other local family farms and got enough to where we could load one 40-foot ocean container a week. And that was in 1986. And we've grown from there to quite a bit over time.
Do you still take containers over to
We don't very much anymore. The price is so volatile over there, up and down. A lot of money was invested by our government, other governments, trying to eradicate the drug problem back in the late 80s, early 90s. And so we were shipping into Europe with a higher duty than the duty that came out of those countries. And the labor, of course, was much cheaper there. So we lost a lot of our market then. I think we still have a superior product than what they have. It lasts longer in vases, but we don't export as much as we used to.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, ever-changing market, right? You have to adjust.
Yes, we do. And we really concentrated hard on our fabulous foliage bouquets and the value-added stuff and our North American market here in the U.S. and Canada, and we're able to make up and then some for the sales that we lost in Europe. But we still ship occasionally as far away as New Zealand and Saudi Arabia and places like that. So it's still, we keep our finger on the pulse of the floral industry worldwide from this little town of Seville that's barely a dot on the map in Central Florida. So
that's amazing. I love that. So thank you so much for coming on here. I know it was last minute. But I was like, let's get them on here. I was just curious. You were so good about posting during the hurricanes, posting pictures. And I was just checking every time you posted because I was so worried. And I know Vonda was too. I was really panicked for you and your industry and
your family. You're
so working.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for y'all's thoughts and prayers and everything else. We can always use that. And we keep the whole industry in our prayers too. You see it affected all over. I mean, it wasn't just the growers. I mean, you look at North Carolina, all the shops and different things there. And also on the west coast of Florida with Helene, I think a lot of people that have flower shops and are in that side of the business really got wiped out, probably a lot worse than what we did. Luckily, we're spread out enough that we could probably absorb that. If you have a shop that happens to be flooded or washed away, it's a lot harder to come back from, probably.
Yeah.
So our thoughts are with all those people.
The flooding part was horrendous to see in that part. But what was amazing to me was to see our industry rally on social media and to see people, even some of our members who were saying, hey, I'm going to take a load over here if you want to, I'm a drop-off point, and like you were saying, Society of American Florists and even AIFD, they were all jumping in and saying, here's a drop-off point to bring things, or here's an Amazon link, get on here if you want to buy stuff for this area or this area. And it was just amazing, to see everybody run out and help.
Yeah. And like you say, our industry is an industry of feelings and people and connections, and it makes make you feel good when you can do something for somebody else too. Right before this, we had a big load of vinegar that we were using, and we ended up shipping that up into Northwest Florida for them to use as disinfectant up there. So
Oh, that's
I really enjoy being part of something where people care about each other in the industry and try to support one another.
Yep.
Yep, you certainly do.
You know, and that's absolutely what it's about. So
That's what they don't call it a floral family for nothing, do they, David?
exactly. Thank you, David. Hopefully you'll come back again this time next year and you'll say, we have an overabundance of foliage. We need to sell.
You give me an opportunity to speak or a mic in front of me, I'll be there for sure.
Okay.
If you hadn't noticed it, so.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We hope you enjoyed spending time with us because we enjoy spending time with you. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button or add the Business and Pleasure of Flowers to your Google morning routine or your flash briefing on Alexa. We look forward to seeing you next week.
So please come back and join us and discover how a bit of knowledge and one small change in your mindset can take you to new levels in your life and business.